Back at school, when I was studying philosophy and ethics, one of our homework assignments was to ask people if they believed in God and why. The one answer I got in the negative was my friend Bennett, who said, if there was a God, the world will be a better place. And before you say anything, he was not Stephen Fry, but he seemed to have the same idea. Stephen Fry has once famously said that if God existed, then he's a maniac. Others just go straight ahead and say that God is evil. I've been studying the aspects of God, but none of them is evil. In fact, one of them is omnibenevolent, meaning all good. So he clearly isn't evil. But the one aspect that people have actually started to debate is omnipotence, meaning all-powerful. But does it have to be that? Some people say that God is all-powerful. In fact, some of the names in the Bible give him the name the Almighty. But this doesn't necessarily mean that he is. I've looked at the word potent for a while. As omnipotent, omnipotent literally is omnipotent. Omni meaning all, and potent meaning powerful. But does potent have to mean powerful? I've always thought about it in the same way that you'd think about an axe versus a rapier. An axe is powerful and requires strength and control. A rapier, by comparison, is lighter and needs precision. That precision is what I'm looking for in this. Because some of an axe can club a musketeer to the ground with his blade, but a musketeer can get past the axeman's guard and poke him full of holes. So, I like to think about it in the manner of facing a large, blocky man. He's very strong, and your job is to set him on his back. You have two options for this. Firstly, you can charge at him and try and barge him over. That's the most powerful way. Your second option is quite simply walk up to him, put one foot behind his legs, and push him. Your leg in the way creates a barrier. He can't step back, he falls over your leg, and he's on the floor. That is being effective. That is being efficient. Ultimately, it's the same goal. You've just achieved it in a less energy deficient way. You've achieved it in a quicker, simpler way. So that's my thought about God. Not Almighty, though we call him that, simply because that's what he appears to be. But he is most effective. But how can he apply this effectiveness here, there, and everywhere? After all, there are many instances where certain things have just occurred. I have two stories for you, one of which is from a pastor from Soul Survivor. The other is a personal one. The pastor at Soul Survivor told a story about a man looking after some orphans in a house with no food. What did they do? They prayed for God to provide them with food. Next thing he knew, the doorbell rang. It was the milkman. Apparently, his milk float had broken down. He couldn't get the milk to the people that he was going to deliver it to, so he offered it to the man and his orphans, and they accepted it. Not long afterwards, there was another knock on the door, and it was the baker. He said that he had been woken up very early that morning by the voice of God telling him to bake some bread and take it round to this man and his orphans. The pastor had a different view to this than me. He wasn't going on about how God can make strange things happen. He was saying that he listens when you pray. You bear in mind that he was talking about how there's so much clamour in heaven, people crying out God's praises. But when one person prays, all of heaven falls silent. God listens, and then he orders an angel to take down from the great altar a bucket of fire and throw it to the earth. And when it hits the earth, there's earthquakes and thunder. And the way the pastor put it is that he said, "Silence everyone, try to listen. Okay, you need food. Okay, angel, get the fire off the altar, put it in the bucket, aim it at the milk float. Yes, aim it there. You got him." That works. But it doesn't explain how the baker woke up really early that morning to give them bread. Some people might argue, what is the point of praying? Because clearly, this man was woken up long beforehand. God had told him that there was going to be people in need of bread. He baked the bread and took it over to them. Some people may think that regardless of whether they prayed or not, the baker would have turned up, out of the kindness of his heart. And whilst a nice thought, it does defeat the point of praying. But remember, God is transcendent. In fact, transcendent means above the material realm. The material realm being the things we can see, feel, and touch. For example, my office, this computer, the computer you're watching it on now, wherever you are watching this video. You're in the material realm. God exists above all that, and I believe he exists even higher. If we accept that the material realm is the four nominal dimensions: substance, shape, depth, and time, then God exists above all four of those. It's unclear whether he's in a different dimension or not, but when someone prays, he gets the bucket down from the altar and he throws it to the earth. But instead of thinking it like the bucket hits the earth and creates earthquakes and lightning, I like to think of it as though it's similar to a stone hitting the surface of a pond. And those ripples perforate outwards from where the stone hits, not just forwards and sideways, affecting things in the future and the surrounding present, but also backwards, affecting the past. So when God said, "Throw the bucket at the milk float," when the bucket hit the earth, true, the milk float stopped, but the ripples of that stretched back across the day to the very early morning, waking up the baker, getting him out of bed so he can make bread for the orphans. That's a powerful thought. My personal story is what initiated this theory about the transcendent God. Me and my friends were once heading to a beach holiday in Norfolk when one member of our convoy was involved in a terrible car accident. The driver was injured, but she survived, as did everyone else. The car was a write-off, but all things considered, we got off better than anyone expected. Later that week, the leader of the group put up a big post on social media explaining the miracles that happened that day. Firstly, that the car landed on its wheels, so that way the passengers inside could get out, being the second miracle that they could. The third miracle was that they kept their heads and called the emergency services, the fire brigade to get the driver out of the car, and the ambulance to get her to the hospital. Miracle number 4. There was a hospital near to where the accident was, so that way she could be transported there in the quickest time. Miracle number 5. She woke up in the ambulance on the way there. Miracle number 6. There was every specialist there that could help her at the hospital. One phrasing of a certain miracle disturbed me. She said that the accident happened near to a hospital, which strongly implies that God had something to do with it, that God had an influence over where the accident happened. I wasn't much of a believer back then. This was just when I was developing the Babelfish theory, hence a slightly off-kilter style of worship. But I started looking at it in a different way. Not if God had any control over it, would he have let it happen in the first place, but the fact that there was a hospital near to where the accident happened. Not that the accident happened near to a hospital. God had an idea of where the hospital should be. The moment we heard about the accident, we were praying fiercely. God listened to us. He got an angel to take the fire down from the altar and throw it to the earth. That created ripples in time, alerting us, alerting the emergency services, increasing the safety of the people into the future, and going back in time to the town planners and architects that were going to build the hospital in a certain place, and they built it in the place that was nearest to the accident without compromising their emergency services. So remember, whilst you may think prayer is useless, it actually has a profound effect. God stops, he listens, and he responds in the most effective way with the power that he has. He may only have so much power, but he uses it in the most effective way. He applies it here, he applies it then. He knows how to make his power work. He knows how to make a bad situation good. He knows how to keep us safe. God is not evil. He is most effective and transcendent.